Do you have a checklist when it comes to event prep, or do you just jump right into it? I ain't gonna lie to you, I didn't have one when I first started, so if you don't, it's okay. It's Director O's here with Just Create the Brand, and today we're gonna talk about the 6 essential steps that you should take in preparation for your event or production. A lot of people, especially when they're new to the creation process, it's an overall excitement as far as just getting booked for an event, getting your own production, just having something to create as a whole. I know personally when I first started, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I was new to creating the shot list. I was new to event prep. I was new to all the things that you should kind of look into or do before you kind of get into your production so that you won't necessarily be stressed the day of. So over time, I've developed a 6-step process that I do preparation for my upcoming events. So today we're going to talk about those. The 6 steps are, for me, and everybody's order is different. My 6 steps are: 1, charging batteries; 2, cleaning cards; 3, calibrating gimbal, if you're using one; 4, pre-scout location; 5, check emails for any last minute changes; and 6 is get proper rest. So we're gonna break it down step by step, one by one, and I'm just gonna give you a small tidbit on my personal experiences and the things that I do getting prepared for an event. The first one is charge batteries. Of course, it sounds extremely simple as far as like, yeah, who doesn't want to go into production without charging their batteries or not remembering? But in the midst of responding back to emails or making sure you just have all the proper equipment, getting there on time, like it's so many factors that go into just making sure that you're prepared for the production, that the smallest detail as far as charging batteries could be something that slips your mind. Of course, the more professional creator probably won't skip this step, but I do know that if you're a beginner, you're new to the process, things happen. So it's very important to pull out all your batteries and, lay them out. My process, what I do personally is I'll either start the night before or 2 days before, just depending on how long it takes your camera to charge. Me personally, I'm using the A7S III and I'm using the A6500. But what I've noticed personally is with the 6500s, they take, give or take, maybe, 20 to 30 minutes to charge. Just in my personal experience, depending on what source of power you use, whether it be the wall adapter or whether it be a USB plug. And then also with my A7 III, I realized that it takes about 35 to maybe 55 minutes to charge. I've just noticed when I've, periodically have scheduled time to kind of see how long it has taken. So I know that my A7 III battery takes a little bit longer. When it comes to a shoot where I'm using both of them, I'll start both of them at the same time, but I'll just always have in the back of my mind, I need to give myself more prep time to charge my A7 III batteries because they just take a little bit longer than my 6500. Also, I've noticed that when shooting, my A7 III battery lasts longer than my A6500. An 8-hour shoot, I might go through 2, possibly 3 A6500 batteries versus with my A7 III, I only might go through 2, maybe even 1, just depending on how much shooting I'm doing during the time. So that's something to just keep in mind as well too, because one of the worst things that you can do is you can get to the shoot on time, you can have all the equipment you need, and you might have the first set of batteries going and you get into the shoot and everything's going fine, and then towards the end of the day, or it might be a crucial moment where the battery's about to die and you want to do a quick swap, and then you put the battery in and it's on 30% or it's crucial battery. I've been in those type of situations where I didn't properly prepare for the shoot the next day, or I was shooting back to back on multiple days, and it may have slipped my mind, or I was tired and I thought that the battery had more juice in it than it did, and then I go and I put it in there, and now I'm looking at the battery and it's on crucial or it's on 13%, and then now I have to micromanage how much shooting I'm doing because I'm trying to conserve a battery that I didn't charge. So try your hardest to not be in that situation. Like I said, things happen and you don't want it to be a reoccurring thing. You wouldn't be the first or the only person to say that it's happened to them before. That's a very simple prep item that I encourage you not to take for granted, because if you don't have no juice in your battery, then you can't shoot anything at all. If it's a corporate client, or if it's a wedding, or if it's one of those type of events where you can't do it over, you can't go back the next day, you have to get that shot right then and there, then you're gonna be in a world of trouble. So that's very, very important. So the first prep item on the list is charge your batteries. All right. The second prep item is clean your cards. This is another thing that sounds so simple. It's just like, clean your cards. Like, why wouldn't you clean your cards? Hey, it's been situations where I may have cleaned one card and I'm thinking another card is clean, and then I filled up one and I get ready to pop the other one in, and it might not have as much time as I thought I had. Or it's kind of the same situation with the camera battery. When you're on set, or if you're at your event and you're doing an event recap and you're shooting, you don't necessarily have time to charge your camera, especially if you're using it. And if you don't have an additional camera that could charge while you're not using it, then there's pretty much nothing you can do. And there's no telling if that set or that location has a power outlet. So you don't want to put yourself in a position to where you're using an SD card and you filled up one, and then now you put the second SD card in, that one's almost full, and then what do? Because if you get to a situation to where now you have to dump a card to make space, that's valuable time that you're missing out on the event. You can't shoot and dump a card at the same time unless you have an additional card with space. So you're gonna put yourself in a lose-lose situation, because now you're wasting valuable time. And then another thing to think about and consider as well too is, do you have your laptop? Do you have an external hard drive? Do you have something to dump it on? Does your laptop have enough space to hold all of the footage that you're trying to dump on it? It's so many factors that go into taking care of the cleaning card process as a whole. Unless you have an assistant, or unless you have a secondary shooter that can do that process for you while you're still capturing the footage that needs to be captured, that's not a situation you want to put yourself in, and it doesn't look professional. You don't want to deem yourself to look unprofessional in front of clients, whether it's a corporate client or whether it's a personal client, or just any client as a whole. Like, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you're looking unprepared. And if I was to hire a director, a photographer, a videographer, anybody that's coming to shoot a project for me, they get on set and their battery's going dead and their cards are not clean and they have to stop every time. Like, everybody's not professional talent. So sometimes you have to get that take when you can get that take. And if you're starting and stopping or having extended pauses to clean cards and stuff like that, that talent might get out of their rhythm. They might not be able to flow as good, or they might be on a time crunch. They might have to leave by a certain time. In production, people are always on strict time schedules. So you have to make sure that you're putting yourself in the best position to where you are able to manage time, also look professional, and just not put yourself in compromising positions. Also, another thing as well too is, when you're getting ready to clean your cards, 9 times out of 10, depending on how much space you need, you're gonna have to format a card. So when you format a card, it deletes everything off of the card. So there's no way you could format a card and keep 1 or 2 files on there. That's another thing to kind of keep into consideration too, is take that extra day or take 2 days prior and make sure that you're scanning through everything that's on that current card that you're about to format. Make sure that you've saved it on an external hard drive. Make sure that you have the footage that you need, because you don't want to be in a situation where you're rushing to clean a card and then you format it for the sake of using it, and then now you deleted some valuable footage that you can't get back because you were in a rush and you just didn't properly prepare yourself to clean that card. You never want to be in that situation where you have to make that decision, because early on in my process, unfortunately, I had to make that decision. I had a card where luckily I did have it backed up on an external hard drive, but at that moment in time, I wasn't 100% sure. And that's one of the most nerve-wracking decisions that you have to make is, I'm here in this moment and I need to capture the footage that's going on right now, but I also am getting low on space and I have to format it soon. I was putting myself in an uncompromising position to where now I had to make a decision. It was no decision to make because at the end of the day, I had to shoot. So I had to format the card. And just having to make that decision where you have to clean a card to create space, knowing or unknowing whether you backed it up or not, is just not something that you want to create a habit of doing. And like I said, luckily I did have that footage backed up, but what if I didn't? And now, say if it was another client's footage, or say if it was a project that I was working on that I may have been working on for some time, and I just wiped the footage just because I have a paying client that I'm working with now, and I didn't properly prepare. So I just deleted all of the other personal work that I was working on just to make space to create footage for this client who I'm servicing. You never want to put yourself in that position, because at the end of the day, you're gonna lose on one end, and either end it's gonna be bad for you. So that's gonna be step 2, is clean your cards. It is something that's so simple as charging your camera batteries, but at the end of the day, it's extremely important, because like step 1 and 2, they go with each other. If you don't have batteries, a fully charged battery, then you can't turn on the camera to begin with. And then if you have a camera with a fully charged battery and you don't have a clean card, you don't have anything to shoot the footage on. So those 2 steps are like so important, because they're contingent of each other. And it's like having a sandwich. One's the bread, one's the meat. Like, you got to put it together. And with those 2, you're just gonna be in a world of trouble if you don't take care of those 2 steps. Step 3, when it comes to prep for an event or a production, for me personally, it's calibrating my gimbal. There's different levels of expertise when it comes to gimbal use. Some people are more proficient when it comes to using gimbals, and they already have their settings set up. They know how to pre-balance it. They know how to get it up and going within 5 to 15 minutes. Versus a beginner level creator or videographer, they might take a little bit longer to balance their gimbal and get the settings right and make sure everything is good. I would say to just save yourself a lot of stress. And also, this is another thing that can help you look a little bit more professional as well too, is you don't want to get on a set. I mean, everybody who's worked with a gimbal before knows that if it's not balanced correctly or the settings are off, it's gonna start twisting and turning and shaking and looking crazy. You don't want to be on set and your equipment is shaking and making these noises and cameras flipping upside down. It's gonna be like, bro, you know what you're doing with that, or you over there faking? Whatever lens that I'm using first, because even though I might change lenses throughout the set or the production as a whole, I start with whatever lens that I'm using first, and I put it on there and I calibrate it, and then I might shoot some test footage with it and to just make sure that, you know, the stiffness is where I want it to be. The deadband is where I want it to be. And just kind of have those things in order, because like I said, technology is technology. So you never know when it wants to act crazy or anything like that. If you're going on a set where there's a specific time crunch, you don't want to sit there and you're spending 20, 30 minutes trying to get this gimbal calibrated and balanced, when that's something that you could have took care of a day before, 2 days before. So that's something that I had to learn the hard way as well too. You can have things preset, but every now and then you have to reset it. You have to recalibrate it. You have to, you know, just redo the whole process to just get it running efficient and smooth every time. So never take on the mentality that, oh, I already preset it or I already got it, it's good, don't worry about it, I'm just gonna put my camera on it and go. Unless you are like using the same exact lens, same exact camera, and you're literally going from like one shoot to another shoot, that's like probably the only time I would really like advise for you to not recalibrate or not rebalance your gimbal, just because it's a gimbal, it's technology. And don't get me wrong, I have the RS3 and I've been using Ronin since the Ronin M. Actually, the Ronin M was my favorite. I actually liked the two-hand Ronin. What I realized is, and it's so funny because they always do this with technology, once new versions come out, for some strange reason, the old versions just stop working. I just realized that they stopped making the firmware for it, and then also too, they stopped making certain pieces for it. So if it was to break or anything like that, they just made it harder and harder for you to get it again. You know, that's probably the process, and them just trying to, you know, get you to get the newer item. If I'm not mistaken, either this week or last week, the Ronin 4 came out. So it might be a while before I get the Ronin 4 because I like my Ronin. I don't do a lot of Ronin work for the stuff that I'm currently working on. So my RS3 serves me just fine. Until I wear this one out, I'll probably just stay on my RS3. You know, there are some avid Ronin users and they are on top of it, and they probably have, I know it's probably hard to get it right now because it's fairly new. But outside of that, that's gonna be step 3, calibrate your gimbal if you're using one. Okay, step 4 is pre-scouting locations. If you have time to do so, I think this is one of the most important steps that you could do on your pre-event checklist. And the reason why I say that is because seeing a location before you actually go shoot at it, one of the greatest luxuries that you can have. To show you guys as an example, I had an opportunity to work with BMMA, which is Black Mamas Matters Alliance, and they had Black Maternal Health Week. They did a walk here in Atlanta, Georgia. I was able to actually go to the event the day prior. So I'm going to show you what that footage looks like and just talk a little bit about the importance of pre-scouting a location. All right, y'all, I'm not gonna lie to you. I've been going back and forth for like 30 minutes just trying to get the focus right. I think one of the hardest things to do, especially creating solo, is just trying to focus yourself for the shot. But I think I finally am focused. I pray that it is. If it's not, I'm sorry. I would just have to do a voiceover and throw some footage over it. But this part of the video is just in regards to pre-scouting locations when you're booked for a gig or you're planning a production. In this situation right here, I do have a gig tomorrow that I am working on. It's actually a walk sponsored by BMMA, and I'll put their information below just so you can kind of get more information of what the organization is and what they do. I just wanted to come here the day before and just kind of get a landscape of what the location looks like. I got some drone footage as far as, you know, I wanted to see what angles work best as far as flying in the drone or having the drone come in from lower angles, or, you know, things like that, because one of the main keys that I try to emphasize the most is the fact that you want to cut down on the thought process when it comes to the day of you actually shooting. If you have to think about the decisions that you're going to make as far as lens choice and what angle you want to bring in and whether you want to use a gimbal or whether you want to go handheld, if you have to make all of those decisions, then it kind of cuts down on the creative process. And the goal is to be as creative as possible, because at the end of the day, that's why they booked you. They booked you for you. They booked you for, you know, what you can bring to the table and your creative expertise. So if you're, you know, in your head and you're trying to just, you know, maximize your own creativity but you're being bombarded by all these decisions the day of, then that kind of cuts down on how creative and how productive you actually can be. That's one thing that I definitely want to emphasize is, you know, try to come as early as possible, just so that you could kind of cut down on the decision makings that you have to make on actual shooting day. And then also, depending on what type of creator you are, you might want to do a shot list before you come to scout the location, or you might want to scout the location and then make a shot list. You never know, everybody's different, so everybody has their own process. But, in certain situations, especially for me, I've been in situations where I've created a shot list and I've got to the location and then the shot didn't work, or, it was just the wrong timing, or, things like that. So that's something that you also want to, take into consideration. Another thing just to think about as well too is when you go to certain locations and you do the scouting for it, ideally you want to go at the time that you'll actually be shooting. So unfortunately I wasn't able to come. The gig tomorrow is from 7:30 a.m. to 3 p.m. and right now it's about 3:30, 4 o'clock-ish, because I've been out here for a while. So it's not the exact same time, but at the end of the day, I still was able to see it during a daylight setting. If you have time and you're able to do it, I would definitely advise that you go and do it at the exact time that you would be planning shooting, just so that then you can know that, okay, well, the sun is coming in from the north, or there's an overcast from the west, or the tree blows this way at this time, or you get what I'm saying? It might be a runner's club that comes at 7 a.m. and you know what I'm saying, now you can't get the shot you want because you got people running across your camera. So it's just those things that you can't really account for in production. You can't account for all the factors, but the earlier you come and the more prep time that you give yourself, it helps in that process as far as, making the decisions when it comes on shoot day. 3 main things that I would say to focus on when you're pre-scouting locations is just, cut down on the thought process and get into your creative bag. 2, compare your shot list and just see if it works. And then 3, try to go and be in the environment at the time that you're actually shooting, because then, if you do all of those 3, there's no way possible that you could get there and not at least be familiar with some aspects of what you're doing. You know what I'm saying? That is something that has helped me a lot in my creative process. I know at the times when I did go into productions and I didn't have the pre-planning process, it was just hard for me because I was overthinking so much. Like, what lens did I want to use? Did I want to use a gimbal? Did I want to go handheld? Did I want to have an over-the-shoulder shot? When did I want to use my drone? Like, all of those things. But, me coming out here the day before and me being out here for an hour or so, 2 hours, I've got a good feel of the space and the energy, and it gives me a better idea how I want to move forward in my creative process. So that would be one of the keys on this list, is save yourself the time, cut down on the pressure, come as early as you can, scout the location, take pictures, take videos, and then it'll just help you in your prep, so that then, when it comes to the actual shoot time, you'll be good to go, you'll be prepped up, and that'll be it. So on to the next tip. Number 5. Okay, so number 5 on the list is check emails the night before. It's extremely important to check your emails the night before, just to make sure that you're not missing any last minute correspondence from whoever is booking you, whether it's your corporate clients, whether it's your personal clients, whether it's from your production assistant, or just anybody that you're working with. Things change in production at any time. You might be prepping to go to one location and then that location possibly might not be available the next day, and they're sending out emails letting everybody know that the location has changed and things like that. Even though, we have cell phones, professionally, you just don't want to expect everybody to just have the time to just text you personally. Especially if you're dealing with a set with 500 people, they don't have time to text everybody personally, or they might have just sent out a mass email so that updating everybody on, okay, here's the updates for set time. Set time may, instead of being 7 a.m. has moved up to 6 a.m. or it moved up to 5 a.m. And so if you go to sleep thinking that it's one thing and you didn't check your email, or you didn't check your location where you actively communicate when it comes to the production, then you are putting yourself at risk of being at the wrong place at the wrong time. That's something that's extremely important when you're doing your prep. Check your email or check your place of communication, just because you want to make sure that you're on top of everything and you're where you need to be, you're on time, and you're just in place. Because the smallest miscue can just throw you or the production all the way off, especially if it could have been avoided by you doing something as simple as checking your email. Just to make sure that you have the proper information up until the last minute, try your best to check your email, check any messages, or check anywhere, any place of communication to just ensure that you and the client or your production team is on the same page before the actual shoot date. And the last step on the list, number 6, is get proper rest. That's also something that's as simple as step 1 and 2 as far as charging the equipment and cleaning cards. But you know, there is so much prep that goes into ensuring that you have a successful shoot day that sometimes you might overdo it as far as being up to 1 to 2 o'clock in the morning, trying to make sure that cards are formatted and that the batteries are charged and all of those things that, oh, you stay up a little longer than expected. And you don't want to run the risk of you oversleeping or you being, you know, exhausted in the morning, or you're just not being able to put your best foot forward because you didn't get the proper rest. I know, you know, people get up and they have their coffee or energy drink or all those things that can kind of get you where you need to go and kind of jump start and get you going in the morning and do whatever works for you. But nothing that you can drink or do is gonna beat proper rest. My last final step when it comes to event prep is just try your hardest the night of is to just get proper rest, get in the bed early, get you a nice meal, set your alarm, and just make sure that, you know, you are putting yourself in the best position so that you can get up early, be on time, be where you need to be, and so that you'll be able to have a successful production. So that's it, y'all. Those are my 6 key steps to getting prepared for an event or a production. Like I said, everybody has their own list of how they do certain things, and you might not do them in the same order as me, or you might not do everyone on the list. But, you know, for the starting out creators and the people who just kind of need a guideline on just things that they need to kind of incorporate into their routine to ensure that they have a successful production, that's my list. So appreciate y'all for watching. It's been a pleasure. If there's anything else that I might have left off, leave down in the comments and I'll be sure to add it if I do another video regarding this topic. But I appreciate y'all. If you guys are not already, subscribe to the channel, Just Create the Brand. Follow me on Instagram, Just Create the Brand. And we're just gonna have a lot of things coming, so stay tuned. I appreciate you, I love you, and peace. I'm out.